Hi there. My name is Caitlin Streeter, and I am now the head of Public Health Emergency Management. And today I'm going to be talking a little bit about global health security in Indiana. Examining public health within the United States, overall health issues and hazards vary greatly. This calls for individual public health security and disaster management within each state, even with some teams within cities and local areas. According to the Indiana Department of Health, hazards in Indiana can range from infectious diseases, weather related emergencies, cyber attacks, active shooters, and chemical spills. In order to combat and attempt to minimize these hazards, working through communities to government understanding and knowledge is critical. Additionally, understanding what each local area is capable of in regards to government's infrastructure, healthcare, and safety net programs allows for future improvement. Since March of 2024, the Indiana Department of Health has hosted multiple different webinars and meetings for a variety of professionals in public health and representatives for different levels of government. These webinars are a great example of how to promote healthy relationships and overall similar understandings within a large difference of professionals and teams present around health hazards. Whole community integration and jurisdiction risk assessments allow for a current understanding of health hazards for different areas of Indiana, while also spreading this data quickly throughout the different public health teams. In overview, global health security involves collaborating within different levels of to detect and prevent major health hazards that threaten Hoosiers, relying on stable relationships within partners and prioritizing present issues and vulnerable populations. In April 2025, the Division of Emergency Preparedness and the Indiana Department of Health published a current GRA, or Jurisdictional Risk Assessment. This GRA contained 882 different respondents, all placed at different districts dependent on geographical location. These bar graphs show the final risk ratings for each different health hazard and the factors surrounding the health hazard. It is important to note that the final risk score for each hazard was calculated with risk and protective factors that contributed to the different hazards in addition to average response for each district. For Indiana, the top health hazard noted within the average of all the districts was a tornado, with cybersecurity following a close second. The factors surrounding the hazards that had the most influence throughout the hazards were limited access to transportation. And these are the graphs that kind of show the direct data from that JRA and the tables that were published by the Indiana Department of Health. The present highest at-risk health hazard in Indiana are tornadoes. This are a natural disaster, meaning that back in the day we would not have known when the tornadoes would hit. Luckily, the development of radars and weather tracking has allowed for some more understanding of when the disaster might occur, but specifics are not guaranteed. Therefore, an attack of a tornado to a community can be quick, by surprise, and cause massive damage to death to the residents. As Indiana's governor, I am sure you are aware of what a tornado is. However, just in case you are unaware of its specifics, a tornado is a violent, rotating cylinder that can have winds up to 300 miles per hour. Also, tornadoes could be over a mile wide, and just one tornado can cover 50-mile radius during destruction. There could be multiple tornadoes in a city at once and slash or throughout the state, leading to a risk of a lot of injury, death, and damage very quickly. This health hazard is important to focus on because Indiana has high ratings of its impact on public health, as we saw in the JRA graphs. There's also a high impact in EMS and infrastructure. Additionally, tornadoes are not preventable as they are a natural disaster, so it's crucial to have proper emergency management for post-disaster. For the second highest health hazard in Indiana, cybersecurity takes the spot. This is when the virtual portion of an institution is hacked and the information that is usually private and sensitive is breached. This can happen to any institution, big or large. However, small to medium healthcare systems are the most at risk as they tend to have lower resources and cybersecurity, and their data is the most sensitive as it usually contains personal and financial information. The development of virtual resources is new in regards to overall American history, so the hazard is still being researched and evaluated. The Cybersecurity Act of 2015 is a federal law to give a resource between private companies and the U.S. government. This is essential during a hijack or cyber attack as it gives an outlet for the companies to send their message to the government quickly and efficiently. The importance of evaluating cybersecurity in Indiana is high, as sensitive and personal information is present for hackers to capture quickly and quietly. Additionally, looking economically, a cyber attack can be expensive and lower profits due to shutdown and lower trust with their customers. Chemical spills can happen anywhere and at any time. Exposure to chemicals through spills and contaminations have been occurring for ages, but recently more awareness and laws are being developed to slow that contamination. Spills and spreads of chemicals can easily be happening and pretty quietly, leading to an increase of public risk and harder maintenance of spreads. These contaminations can be flammable and or poisonous, leading to a short duration of effects towards residents, sometimes leading to death. As stated, these exposures can be deadly and hard to maintain, so focusing on spreading awareness on how not to spread chemicals is crucial. Even though the Indiana Department of Health noted tornadoes as the highest average reported health hazard, I recommend focusing primarily on chemical spills prior to any other issues. Looking into the history of chemical spills in Indiana, Superfunds have been developed, published, and are still growing every year. These are areas that are being focused for cleanup after a chemical contamination. However, there are so many more areas that have chemical spills and spread that are not a part of the Superfund site. In 2008, a Newport chemical depot finally destroyed use of their highly spilled chemical nerve, Agent VX. In 2015, Tier Hot suffered a sulfur leak that saw respiratory issues in the residents. In 2019, ArcelorMittal spilled cyanide and ammonia that killed fish and closed beaches in the Indiana dunes. In 2024, there were a recorded 10,235 spills in Indiana. These are all different and contain different environments and chemicals that are present. This amount is constantly increasing, and this warrants further and future investigation on how to prevent future spills and clean up the current and past ones. As stated previously, chemical spills spread the toxic substance quickly, leading to a high amount of people who can be affected. One spill has the potential to harm a whole city, especially those gaseous chemicals that can spread through the air. Even though chemical spills are being reported, there's no guarantee that the spill will be reported when it occurs. So, spreading education and awareness of what causes a chemical spill, what it looks like, and how to properly report will support increased understanding of the true amount of spills in Indiana. Finally, focusing research on why spills are still occurring and how to be more efficient at cleaning up a spill will promote healthy environments for Hoosiers and work towards less chemical exposure in the environment. Currently, Indiana has a consistent improvement towards their emergency response to a chemical spill. There is an Office of Land Quality, or OLQ, Emergency Response Program, which receives reports of spills and follows strict protocol to identify and work to clean up and investigate spills in Indiana. This program will also work with other responders to have the most resources for proper identification and cleanup. Also, there's a 24-hour emergency spill line, which allows someone who has accidentally contaminated the environment with chemicals or someone who has seen a contamination of chemicals to have an instant reporting of the spill, regardless of the day and time. A PDF is readily available to provide more context for reporting and protocols on how to evaluate a chemical spill and its potential threat and impact. During your term, I find it important to continue to support these resources, but also work towards more awareness of their availability. Adding signs on roads of the importance of reporting chemical spills can allow those who see a spill to know what to do. Also, running ads and campaigns to further educate the community on how to properly work and dispose of chemicals will aid in less accidental damage. If you want to be even more radical in your approach, offering rewards and or incentives to reporting a workplace for improper chemical handling and dumping will promote workers to report improper workplaces. With not only continued support for present resources, but also working towards more awareness and understanding, this will see an overall decrease in not only the amount of spills, but an increase in the amount of reports to allow for quicker cleanup and healthier homes for Hoosiers. Here are my references, and thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions about anything I have talked about or just further information on these different health hazards, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.